Welcome back to the Brave Evolution podcast. I'm your host, Chantel Hampton, and this is your boost of empowerment. The Brave Evolution is all about you being brave enough to dig deep and face the fears, face the ugly, and face the horrible cards you were dealt, and allowing those beautiful jewels deep inside of you to take root and to grow. Welcome back to the Brave Evolution podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I have a dear friend of mine that I met years ago. It's years ago. It feels like forever. But Miss Quontay Turner. Welcome, Quontay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to see you again.
It's great to see you too. Quontay Turner, also known as Q, is a multi-talented creative and entrepreneur. She is the founder of QMade, an Emerald City plant shop, the first Black woman-owned plant shop in New England. She has over 10 years of experience in community organizing, event management, recruiting, and facilitating conversations and trainings around diversity, equity, and inclusion. In her spare time, Quontay loves building connections and sharing resources with those new to the Boston area as one of the lead organizers for the Boston Young Black Professionals, whose mission is to curate more space for professionals of color to fully enjoy all that Boston has to offer. She is a proud member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority incorporated and a native of Mattapan, who is passionate about creating a more inclusive and connected Boston. Thank you again, Quontay, so much for being here. Oh man, you're making me want to miss Boston.
Yeah. Not this time of year. It's starting to get cold over here. It was like 30 degrees and frost. I was not ready this morning.
Oh, yikes, 30 degrees. Top of November. I mean, yeah, I'm in Florida. It's hot all the time, but man, I do kind of miss it though. Like I wouldn't mind actually coming up and seeing the snow like just once, maybe just
right. And vacationing in it like for a couple of days and then going back to the work. I need to switch that.
Let somebody else shovel, let somebody else. Yeah, I'm good with that. But yeah, I even wore my my Celtics hoodie to represent home. All right. Well, welcome again. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. And I think I wrote down like I've known you since probably around 2009 when you were at school at WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. For those that don't know, I worked in student affairs there in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Affairs. And what was your major when you were there?
Oh my gosh. I was a civil engineering major in environmental studies. So I was a double major. I was a little crazy.
Oh, yes, I do remember that. Wow. Okay. Because I think, I asked like you and Jahari that all the time. Like, what are you major?
I know the only two that were civils because everyone else was like chemical or mechanical.
Or computer science or something like that. Yep. But that is so cool. So it's so good that we've reconnected. And I know I probably told you back then, like, oh, my mom's maiden name is Turner. And so my family, I'm from a family of Turners, and we still have not figured out if there's a link, but no, we've always connected. So it's so good to see where you are and see your journey over the years. And I'm so proud of you for that. And back in those days, you were quiet and really sweet. You still are. Well, I don't know about quiet, but
it's funny. I feel like I get the quiet exterior, but once you get to know me, I can be very loud. Yep.
And then, I mean, especially you were quiet when you came into the office, but I could tell you were always thinking, you were always creative from what I remember. But when you were at WPI, what did you see yourself doing full time? The fact that you were a double major is ambitious in itself, but like, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking?
So when I was in school, my whole world had turned upside down because all the way up until freshman year, until I took my first like bio class and my first chemistry class, I was intent on being a veterinarian doctor. And then I took my first bio class. I was like, I cannot do 8 years of this. And also like just when you're at an engineering school and everyone's graduating making 70 plus thousand, and then you realize that if you go to vet school, that's what you make after, you're like, that's not really enticing. So, when I realized that that wasn't going to be my life path, I was like, I don't really know what I want to do. And so I kind of just picked civil engineering because it was kind of the closest to environmental without all the crazy chemistry. And then they created my second major, environmental studies, my sophomore year. And I was like, oh, this sounds fun. Let me just add it onto the plate. But yeah, then my whole mission was like to get through school. I mean, for those that aren't aware, WPI is on a very different system in terms of the projects, in terms of like accelerated 7-week classes, start to finish. So, when you're in it, you're just focused on trying to get through it. And so I had know that I didn't necessarily love engineering. I just was decent at math and science. But towards the end of my junior year, the beginning of my senior year, I knew that I really loved working with students. Before I came to WPI, I had worked at the aquarium in Boston for a number of years. And then, working with the different clubs and organizations on campus, I knew I wanted to be in that area. So, fortunately, I had great people like you and Natanya and Greg Snoddy at WPI that put me, they actually sponsored me to go to a student affairs conference sometime in my senior year. And so I knew the bug was already planted that I would be coming back around to student affairs. So when I graduated, I told myself, I was like, all right, you spent 4 years and countless numbers of hours getting this degree, you should at least try it. So I worked at Turner Construction for like 9 months, didn't like it, switched over to like environmental consulting, which was tolerable, I guess, for me. But the company I worked for was small and they hit a rough patch. So they had a lot of layoffs and I was one of them. And, fortunately for me, I was working in Worcester at the time and there was an opening in admissions at WPI and I had been an intern there while I was a student. So I kind of just wiggled my way back over to WPI and that's where I was for the last, from 2012 to 2016. Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. That is really cool. I did not realize all of that. It's crazy how life takes you on this journey, like this unexpected journey. And just even talking to college students and people that, I feel like I've kind of always done that, try to encourage people in their path and everything, especially in school and then coming out of school. But I try to tell students, your major is what it is, but life takes you on twists and turns, and trust the process, trust it. So you've done that beautifully.
Thank you. I know that was the number one thing I always was talking to students when I was recruiting for college. I was like, listen, everyone I know at this stage has, for the most part, transferred out of engineering or doing something completely different or teaching. And, so it doesn't really matter what you get your degree in. It's kind of wherever life takes you.
It's so true. WPI was rigorous. Like,
I'm like, I don't know how I got through those 4 years. Like PTSD.
I don't know either. I don't know either. Y'all would come in so stressed, like over it.
All the time.
Oh my gosh. What created your, like, where do you find that spark of creative entrepreneurship? Like, what sparked that journey? And what made you so pivot? In one of my episodes, I'm talking to another friend of mine about just like making a pivot from music into a whole different career. But for you, what made you, step away from WPI and what you were doing there and then spark that creative entrepreneurship path?
Yeah, for the longest time, I hated the term entrepreneur or like even identifying with it. And I don't really know where that comes from. I think at the time it was more so the stigma around like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. That's like code for you not knowing exactly what you do for a living. And I hated that narrative.
Mhm.
But that was always kind of in my spirit, in my nature, going back to like when I was 7, selling my toys on the side of the road and doing lemonade stands. And, thinking back to high school, actually, that's where it kind of took off. I would sell candy out of my locker just to make ends meet. I didn't come from much, so anything outside of the bare necessities at home, I'd have to kind of fund. So I got creative with how to make money, and then my senior year rolled around, and I went to the O'Brien in Boston, and we didn't at the time have, school gear. We didn't have like senior class trips, so I was like, oh, I can make some sweatshirts. So I'd take my little 91 Integra, my first car, and drive to screen printing places and get everyone their merch. And so that spirit has always been with me. I think when, I was at WPI, I was focused on, getting through and making ends meet while I was there.
Right.
And it wasn't until I had more time and space that in 2014, actually, when I switched over in 2014, my goodness, yeah, 2015 is when I started my QMade business. So after I got settled in, the world of admissions, I had a little bit more time, and so I just, wanted to kind of create things that I like. And I noticed that other people would like them. And so my stepmother was the one that gave me the idea. She was like, why don't you just post some of your stuff on Facebook Marketplace, or, or start an Etsy page, it's free. And that's how I started my QMade business. So I started doing, things with old records because I just randomly made myself a record clock, and, my friends wanted them, and then it kind of spread. And then it was just kind of whatever. I think for me, the creativeness comes from living my life and the different interests that I have. So, I love baking. So at one point I was baking as part of my business. I recently became a dog mom. So, creating cool things for pups and things. So a lot of, all of the things I create have stemmed from, just a particular interest in my life or like a passion area. And that could be said for now, the plants.
That is so awesome. That is so cool. I feel like I completely identify because I think that's why even in certain jobs or things that I get antsy so quickly, because I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Like I remember in 2nd grade starting a greeting card business and like drawing every day after school. And then I had a friend, I'd go to their house and I'd be like, okay, we got to do this. And I already had an employee and I was like, you're not doing it right. And
I love it.
But yeah, the same thing, high school doing hair and like college doing, and so, yeah, I get it. And that is so cool though, regarding your inspiration. And I know just like in 2018, when Black Panther came out, your Wakanda design like really took off. Like,
yes.
What happened there?
So everyone was so excited about the movie coming out, and, in my bio, I mentioned the Young Black Professional. So I was doing different events in the city. So I just like had a little sketch in my head, and I'm not a designer by trainer. All of my designs either come through Canva or Publisher. So I'm not even fully versed in Photoshop or any of those crazy means, which is why I always tell people, start where you are. But I had, put the design together, and I was like, let me make a pin. I don't know. Like I think I had bought one pin. I was like, oh, I want to start a pin collection. So I should start making pins. And so I put it together. They finally came in. I tagged this page called Black Pin Maker League. So it's just a whole bunch of Black lapel pin makers and all their designs. So I tagged them, and I remember exactly where I was when I started hearing my phone like go off constantly with orders. And I was like, what is happening? And then I looked on Instagram and I noticed that they had reposted my pin. and then it just went viral from there. So I'm not on Twitter, but my friends are, and they was like, "Oh, are you on Twitter?" Like they sent me these screenshots. Jesse Williams had retweeted my pin. Yvonne Orgy had retweeted my pin. So a whole bunch of different people were like retweeting it, and so it just completely changed the game for me. And I was actually able to leave my job. From WPI, I went and worked at Emerson. And if anybody in admissions knows, like January, February, you're like head deep in reading applications. And so it was to the point where I was reading applications pretty much 9 to 5, and then from 5 to 9, packing orders all night. And I was doing this for a number of weeks. And I was like, I can't do it. Because the nice thing about it too was that people were going to my Etsy page to buy the pin, and then they'd see all the other designs I got. So it wasn't just like just repackaging and sending out pins. I then had to make my mats, I had to make my other t-shirts.
Yeah.
And so March came around, and I was like, I cannot keep doing this anymore. Like there's only 24 hours in a day, and I can't work all 24 hours. I still need to eat, sleep. So I basically attempted to leave my job outright, and they was like, no, how about part-time? And so I stayed part-time until the fall. And then I told myself, I was like, we're going to do this, give it a good try for a solid year, see it through all the seasons, and then we'll reevaluate if you want to go back to working for someone, because that experience is always there. When you ride a wave of going viral or hit like a gold mine, you gotta see where that takes you. So I did, and the first couple months was great, and then the remaining couple months was a struggle. I was working Uber, I was delivering groceries, I was doing bartending, anything I could make to make ends meet. And at the end of 2019, I went back to the working force only for a couple of months before COVID hit. And then I was unemployed. I got unfortunately laid off with the program I was at. And so my second time in doing entrepreneurship, I had a lot of lessons that I learned the first time around, and kind of made it work the second time.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, what a story. That is so inspiring. Like it's inspiring, it's encouraging, but you made some really great points. And the one big thing that stands out is like start where you are. Like you have to, sometimes people think you have to have all this knowledge and all of this skill, but you just have to have the vision and the creativity to try it, and the willingness to try it. That's encouraging. What is Emerald City Plant Shop, where you are right now? You can see the logo in the back. What is it, and how did this venture begin?
Oh my goodness. So Emerald City Plant Shop is New England's first Black-owned plant shop, and it's a botanical event space. So a lot of people love being around plants, but don't necessarily want to care for all of them. And so you can have your events in basically an indoor jungle. So Emerald City came about around the same time, around like 2018. A friend of mine was working at a nursery or plant shop in Boston, and it's niche in the South End. And so I loved plants. And as soon as I stopped traveling for work, for admissions, so when you're in admissions, you are gone weeks, sometimes months at a time. And so keeping anything alive, let alone a plant, was impossible. So my plant habit budded when I was basically grounded, when I stopped traveling for work. And so around 2018, I decided to work part-time at Niche just to learn more about plants, be around plants, have a cool, part-time gig that just brought me joy. And, to just basically have extra money to buy plants. So when COVID hit and the initial quarantine was lifted, so we shut down basically from April to I think May. And when we reopened in May, we basically couldn't keep any plants on the shelf. There were, we had the minimum occupancy. So there was lines basically outside the door, and sometimes it was like, 40 degrees, like it still wasn't, quite summer or
Yeah.
spring yet. And so I was like, this is crazy. People are really, the combination of everyone being forced to stay home and, kind of creating, was it, I think the couple of industries that did thrive during the throes of quarantine was the, plant business and like home improvement project because everyone was home.
Yeah.
Um, so this was, so May 2020. And so at this time, I had been baking to make ends meet because, I got laid off, but my employment didn't kick in until a couple months later. So I had to get creative with how I was going to support myself in the meantime. And so when the plant store reopened, I noticed that there was a huge boom. And so I was still doing pop-ups for my QMade business, kind of selling all different types of kind of Black inspired pop culture goods.
Mhm.
And my cousin Jada, she owns and runs Black Owned Boss, which is basically a directory of Black owned businesses in and around the Boston area. And so I was helping her kind of break into the market area and doing markets. And she secured a month-long pop-up at Legacy Place in Dedham, which is
Oh, yeah.
majority white area.
Yeah.
So I knew that, my Protect Black People shirts, my Wakanda gear, that wasn't necessarily going to be, flying off the shelves. Because prior to that, I did most of my vending like within like Roxbury, which are, for those that aren't familiar with Boston, is like the
Got it.
historically Black areas of Boston.
Right, right.
Um, so with this new pop-up, I was like, all right, I have to pivot again, right? I have to think about expanding my audience reach. And I had that knowledge from working at the plant store. I was like, well, plants are hot right now. Let me try doing a plant pop-up because there's also not a lot of plants on the South Shore of Boston or plant shops. And basically it was Saturday and Sunday every weekend between Black Friday and Christmas. And I sold out every weekend. It was
Wow.
nuts. Like that whole time frame, I was driving back and forth to the nurseries and stocking up. And so I was like, wow, I thought this was going to be just an okay pivot to get me through the month, but it wound up, being amazing. And the number one question that people had was, how can I support you? Where are you located? And I was like, I besides this pop up, you can like I can post plants and deliver them. So that kind of stuck in my head as the pop up wrapped up. And so um, flash forward to like a couple weeks later, like 2 weeks later, my friend had gotten me a Groupon massage, and it was right down in Norwood Center, and I live in Norwood. So I went to the massage place, and when I was coming out, I noticed the vacancy signs for my plant shop now. And the thing that caught my eye was the windows. It has these huge, beautiful windows. And so I called them. I think it was like on a Wednesday that I saw it. I saw the sign. I had a showing and walked through the space on Friday. And then basically February 28th, I think was like the last day of February, I got the keys.
Wow.
And originally it was priced way higher than I was hoping for a budget. I am I'm making ends meet. So like opening a brick and mortar was not in the plans for me, especially at that time. But because it was COVID, I wound up getting a huge steal on the place. And I had never had a retail business before and didn't know that most leases aren't a year, they're usually 3 years. And I got a crazy savings over that time frame,
Wow.
just because no one was opening businesses in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
Um, so I did all that. I was like, all right, I don't have any money, but I need to find a way to quickly raise the money. So I started a GoFundMe page, and luckily we raised close to, I think it was like 13,000 on there. And then between that and then just doing tons of pop-ups around the city, I was able to raise the money and open doors on May 1st. And so we are fully operational. It's been crazy. It's still a whirlwind experience. I think now we're approaching a year that this was like a thought process for me,
Yeah,
like of
yeah.
like thinking about selling plants, not even like opening up a physical location, but I had to say, I was like, when I saw the vacancy sign, I was like, there's just no way. Like this is clearly my path and I need to go with it.
Wow. That is freaking amazing. That's like, that is so cool. And it's so inspiring because so many people, they would, even myself, I'm guilty of it, of like having this idea and wanting all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, and okay, I know I can do this, but like literally having to step out on faith and like literally
Your
walk on
faith.
water. Like it's complete faith, and it's amazing. And to see how all the pieces come together. And I know we were just talking earlier about just now in the process of, okay, operating the business. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs know this and business owners know this. Once you're in it, you have to keep it moving and the funding has to come in. So I know you're looking for more grants and you want to keep it open, but are there anything like specifically is there anything specifically that you're looking for or pushing for now, financially and all of that? What is that process like for you?
Yeah, and so because all of this happened so quickly, and again, my experience as a business owner has been always, a home-based business that would do pop-ups in locations, like not even wrapping my head around, the terms of leases for retail businesses and spaces. That is nothing the same as like renting a house or renting a space or buying a house of your own. But so for me, because I've been building it as I've been running it, for me now, it's the challenge of trying to find that funding. And because, it's a great story to open a business or to be able to open a successful business in a pandemic, because just of all the resources, government wise, a lot of different agency wise, all the resources are going to existing businesses to help them survive. There's not a lot for businesses that were started in the pandemic. We don't, qualify for a lot of that funding. So, I'm in the process of educating myself on which opportunities, I qualify for and makes the most sense. I'm not a grant writer by training. I'm an engineer that just, branched out and did a couple crazy things. But I've been one of the things that's been helping me along this journey of especially of like funding and financing is tapping into my network. And there was this audiobook I read, it's called Who Not How. And it's really taught me to outsource and find the people that this is second nature to. This is like their zone of excellence and expertise. So I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of great people along my crazy path so far. And so just helping working with them to find, good contacts, good grants to apply for, but anything helps. And I always tell people, especially, as we talk about, women entrepreneurs, Black, BIPOC businesses of color, be kind, be kind to us because, any business owner is going to run into a lot of these obstacles, but specifically BIPOC and women-owned businesses, we struggle in the financing area. So, be kind. My biggest piece now is like not asking those businesses for discounts as we like approach holiday season, just because on top of all that, now, like within this last year, everything has gone up. So part of my journey, I worked at Commonwealth Kitchen working with food entrepreneurs, getting their businesses started. And just the sheer cost of food, of meat particular, that has increased, like that translates to needing to raise prices or, not giving as many discounts as you did before. So,
Right.
So just be mindful when you're doing your holiday shopping this season that things have gone up and we're still, small businesses are still trying to find a way to make a way.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And thank you for sharing that. Yes, guys, be kind and no asking for discounts because no. So I saw you posted something on IG. It was like last week, I think it was, and I reached out to you after this, but It was really inspiring. And I want to read this to my audience. And y'all, I'm going to make sure her social media links are here and I want you to follow her. But she said, this year has been all about taking risks, stepping outside of my comfort zone and applying pressure. Truth be told, it's the happiest season of my life so far. So this is where I'll stay. I owe myself and my tribe a lot. And this is just the warm up. That is so good and it's so powerful and it's so inspiring. And well, one, what made you say that? And then what were you thinking?
So this was, I was reflecting on, so this is, Emerald City is also an event space. And so in order to market it as an event, you have to kind of throw an event. So I had never really celebrated my retirement from working for the man or working for someone else. And Halloween was a perfect time to get the place all, dolled up for some good pictures so that people can envision their space here or their events here. And so for me, that was really the time where I kind of got to sit back and reflect on just how much work I've put into this space, how far it's come, even, from opening day one to from May 1st to, October 23rd, the shop looks completely different. And so I obviously, I'm the driving force behind this, but, my support system is crazy. And so this was also like a big thank you to them. But I've done, as an entrepreneur, you take a lot of risks. That's just the name of the game. But there's been no risk greater than opening up a whole brick and mortar and leaving your steady income to be able to run that full time. Right. And just seeing, one of the things I always tell people as an entrepreneur is that you have to have, it's hard on some days, but you have to overall have an unwavering faith in yourself and your capability. And that's exactly what I had. There's been weekends where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage, the shop's rent, all the bills for both those places, and my mountain of student loans from WPI, from the engineering degree I'm not using. And I'm like, I need to find $6,000 this weekend. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we're going to find it. And the universe just makes a way. And so that's been the lesson for me this year, is just, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be so worth it. And this has been one of the hardest years, but it's also been the most rewarding year. In and of itself. And so that was kind of just, that post was me reflecting on all that basically up until that moment.
That is so beautiful. That is so good. No, that is powerful. I commend you 1,000%. And I know I've said it over and over on this talk, but I am so proud of you. And I'm proud of anyone who is willing to take these risks, because it's about doing it afraid and recognizing that in that process, you're going to be caught. Something it's going to catch you and you're going to figure it out and it's going to come together. And it takes bravery. The Brave Evolution is literally just about helping people overcome chronic fear, as well as like chronic illnesses, but because that's what I'm dealing with, but the chronic fear of starting something and stepping out and just doing it. So I'm super proud of you. Super proud of you. Before we close out, can you just share your social medias where people can find you? I want to make sure people do that.
Yes. So you can find my personal social media is QMade, QMADEIT. And it's my website needs to be updated. I've been preoccupied with Emerald City, but my website is also qmade.com. And then Emerald City, it's Emerald City Plant Shop on IG, on Facebook, and it's emeraldcityplantshop.com for our website. Follow both, but my personal page is more so dedicated to the journey of being an entrepreneur and supporting all of my entrepreneur tribe. And Emerald City Plant Shop obviously is about all things plants.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Quick question. Does Emerald City Plant Shop, do you ship or is it just for locals?
So we ship our merchandise. And so if
Okay.
you are a plant parent and love cool punny things, my design work has not stopped at QMade.
Awesome.
It's just transferred over to Emerald City. So we ship all of our merchandise, but we don't ship live plants just
Got it.
because living in New England and with the crazy shipping delays,
Yeah.
we'd be shipping dead plants. So we just save everyone the hassle.
I got you. Perfect. Thank you so much, Quontay. I appreciate you, and I look forward to speaking again soon.
Yes, yes. And when you come back for a visit home, definitely come by the shop.
I definitely will. Like, you'll probably be my first thought. Awesome. Thank you so much.